So guys, today's video is going to about Saitama. Well, you probably guessed that from the thumbnail. In this video, the real fight between God and Saitama will begin, where Saitama will fight seriously. We will also explore what God's true powers are. So, if you are interested, keep watching. As we saw in the previous video, the fight between God and Saitama had already started. Saitama had dealt a devastating punch to God, but God easily regenerated and with a surprise attack slammed Saitama into the ground. And by slammed, I don't mean a little bit. God buried Saitama with such a force that he almost reached the center of the earth. However, he was stopped midway by some kind of crystal cave that prevented him from going any deeper. Obviously, from the name, the cave was made of crystals, which is why Saitama couldn't go any further. But does Saitama care? He is more like, oh man, I'll need to buy a new costume after this. At the same time, Saitama thinks to himself, it seems I need to get even more serious, since God is extremely powerful. Meanwhile, on the surface, everyone was in bad shape. It was a hopeless situation after Saitama disappeared. Among them, Cheetah Girl was thinking, even that blow couldn't do anything to God, then what can possibly defeat him? Right after that, God explained that even 4th-dimensional being cannot defeat him, because among the multiverse, there are gods of even higher dimension with powers that are beyond comprehension. This makes it clear that God is a general term, but among these gods, some are extremely powerful, some are moderately powerful, and some are even weak. You can consider this god as one of the weaker ones, because it comes above the 4th dimension only, like 5th and 6th dimension. After this, the god does something that I believe the author shouldn't have done, because it ruins the entire potential of the series. God uses some kind of attack that disintegrates all the organic matter present on Earth, and this attack was called Judgment. And as soon as God uses this attack, a strange kind of portal opens up in the sky. Following this, we see Tatsumaki and Fubuki starting to disintegrate, turning into dust, much like what happened in the Avengers Infinity War. Then we see Blast as well, who is also disintegrating. It isn't explicitly mentioned where Blast is, but he must be on the Earth since he is disintegrating too. After that, all the heroes are shown turning into dust, and the same happened to God's opponent, including Garou and the Cheetah Girl, who also being to disintegrate. Realizing this, Garou understands that they must stop God as quickly as possible, otherwise things will go horribly wrong. Garou then finally yells at Cheetah Girl saying, "Don't just stand there, do something. Are you just waiting to die?" Well, this is exactly what I mentioned in my previous video, that her planet is already destroyed and now she is trying to destroy Earth. After that, Garou asks her, you still have that unusual stone, right? Can it stop God? The Cheetah Girl says she isn't sure, but she believes that if they use stone to send God into cosmic abysses using its teleportation power, they might be able to kill him. Garou agrees and tells her that he will distract God, while the rest of the work is up to her. After this, I thought Garou would use some kind of powerful attack, but instead he pulls a massive boulder from the ground and throws it at a god. Honestly, the boulder was huge, almost the size of a small mountain. But come on, God can effortlessly slice a mountain in half, so what was this boulder to him? He easily nullified Garou's attack, which was expected. However, Garou doesn't stop there. After throwing the boulder, he follows closely behind it, moving toward God for a surprise attack. The moment he gets an opportunity, he uses his God Slayer fist on God. But just calling it God Slayer doesn't make the attack powerful enough to actually slay a god. The attack has literally no effect on God. Sure, it leaves a hole in God's face, but God was already preparing for his own attack. Garou startled and think, wait, I didn't do that. Did God created this hole himself while preparing his attack? Obviously, Garou could have dodged this attack with ease, he was fast enough for that. But God had him trapped in the air using his power, so Garou couldn't dodge no matter how hard he tried. However, when God attacked Garou, somehow Garou breaks free. Maybe it was because God couldn't use his power to trap Garou while simultaneously attacking him. As a result, Garou narrowly escaped death from God's attack. Speaking of death, wasn't Garou also disintegrating? Why hasn't he fully disintegrated yet? This was one of the most questionable things in this manga, because not only does Garou survive disintegration, but the Cheetah Girl also survives. One possible explanation could be that when God uses his judgment attack and Garou and the Cheetah Girl start disintegrating, Garou throws the boulder at God, which might have interrupted the attack midway. This could be why they both survived. Another reason could be that their strong willpower. Perhaps they were disintegrating more slowly because they were actively resisting it, unlike the others on Earth who disintegrated very quickly since they had no idea what is happening and they couldn't use their willpower to fight back. This seems like most plausible explanation to me, but what do you all think? Let me know in the comments. After narrowly escaping that attack, Garou tries to counter-attack God again, But God uses his 4th dimensional stop ability to freeze Garou mid-air. He then says, "This time you won't escape." Immediately after, the scene shifts and we see Saitama, who despite being so deep underground can still feel the earthquake caused by the fight between God and Garou. Fully prepared, Saitama launches himself towards the surface. The scene then changes back to the surface where Garou is in terrible shape. The intense fight with God even caused the weather to deteriorate. Since God is shocked by Garou's potential, he remarks, "Blood keep pouring out from all your wounds. You are still refusing to fall. I must admit, you impressed me, but still, playtime is over." However, Garou in a badass manner replied, "God or not, whoever you are, there is someone far stronger than you." By someone, Garou obviously referring to Saitama. Continuing his statement, Garou boldly tells God, "Listen, until I fight him again, I won't fall." This gives Cheetah Girl the time and opportunity to attack God with stone. At the same time, Garou takes the chance to attack God as well. But when even Saitama's punch has no effect on God, what could this time-space stone possibly do? Especially since God specializes in navigating between time and space, he easily absorbs the stone into himself. Now the Cheetah Girl can't escape into another planet to destroy it. Following this, God explained to both of them, "Time and space are still under my domain. So how do you think you could defeat me using time-space stone?" After this, we were given an explanation about first, second and third dimension, how they were created and the differences between them. I won't go into detail about that. However, one thing that God tells us which stands out is that lower dimensional being can never perceive higher dimensional being. On the other hand, higher dimensional being can easily notice lower dimensional being. For those who don't know, the 4th dimension come after the 3rd dimension, and one aspect of 4th dimension is time. Since time and space are interconnected, this being which exists in the 5th dimension can control both. God further explained that beyond 4th dimension are 5th, 6th and 7th dimension, and even higher dimensions. As you gain more access to space-time, the number of dimensions increases. Returning to the fight, the Cheetah Girl attacks God again, but he defeated her in a single strike. Garou tries to attack, but God countered with such a devastating attack that Garou can't move. It's unclear whether Garou is dead or alive or just severely injured. He himself can't comprehend what is happening to his body. However, since Garou starts recalling the past memories of everything he has done, he begins to feel like he might already be dead. Meanwhile, Saitama is still making his way towards the surface. It's taking him so much time because he is advancing with small punches, as a strong punch might cause the earth to explode. You could say Saitama has no choice but to proceed slowly towards the surface. By the time Saitama reaches the surface, there is no one left to fight God. What happened next will be an epic showdown between God and Saitama, something you can only imagine the intensity of. The fight will take place in the next video, which will probably be the final part of the series. So make sure to subscribe and stay tuned. See you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.